1, 2, 3, 4! From the Rifts!
Hey, welcome back to From the Rifts, and today we're talking about combat. And as always, I'm Big Will Johnson and
Carmela.
And we're going to talk about combat. You guys have asked some questions, very good questions, how to run a proper Palladium combat, Rifts especially. And that's what we're going to focus on. I'll let Carmen get right to it.
Okay, so generally, like you said, we're going to talk about combat. We're going to use Rifts for our example, but this really applies to all the Palladium lines. The only thing that's different is, like, a plus here or there will be different, or a penalty here or there. For example, the -10 penalty to dodge a shooting attack in Rifts in superheroes is only a -4 because they mean for the superhero game to be a little more cinematic. So things like that will be different. Other than that, not much. Okay, so just so you know, melee round is the standard for combat. Like, it's broken down into melees. It's 15 seconds, and so every minute you'll have 4 melee rounds. Every character will have a different number of attacks based on his hand-to-hand, his skills, that kind of thing, his OCC. But generally it's in the 6 to 8 range usually. And each melee round then he'll get that 6 to 8 attacks. So at the beginning of combat, assuming no surprise, if there's like a surprise attack, it'll happen before we actually roll for initiative, you'll roll for initiative. And it's easy. It's a standard D20 roll, so we'll do a little fine example with his magic die, which he threw into a box of other stuff.
Awesome.
And if you have an initiative bonus, you'll add it to it. So basically, everyone at the table will roll like that. And once you're done, you'll have a list of numbers that the GM will call off. And that's the order in which the players and the bad guys will make their attacks. Okay. And then you'll go just round robin style through that order over and over until you're done. So, you'll start at, who's ever got a natural 20, and then you'll just start working your way down through the initiatives until you get to the last one, and then you'll start back to the top. And everybody who's got, 8 attacks will go, and then everybody with 7, and, etc. until you use up all your attacks. And then it'll get to a point at the end where, like everybody except for 1 or 2 players will have used all their attacks, and those 1 or 2 players will just keep going until they finish theirs up. And that's basically it. And the combat just keeps cycling around like that. And that applies to whether you're in a melee combat in hand-to-hand, or whether you're shooting at range, or whether your character is doing something else, like running across the parking lot, or trying to pick a lock while a battle's going on, or whatever. It's done in those actions according to the melees as they go around.
Right.
Okay. Now, to do a combat, it's pretty simple. The Palladium basically uses an opposed system where if I'm the attacker, I'm going to roll to attack. Okay, we'll do melee first because it's easiest.
Right.
So I'll roll a d20 and I'll add my strike bonus. Now my strike bonus will include all my bonuses for hand-to-hand, for my various skills, for my OCC, and any WP, weapon proficiency, I have for the weapon I'm using. And I'll roll that and add that strike bonus to it. In this case, I got a 10. Say I had a total bonus of like 5, then I would add that, so I'd have 15 total. Then what he would do is he would decide what he's going to do to block or to deal with it. Generally, you're going to parry, which is some sort of blocking, swatting away my blade. Or you could dodge, which means you're basically trying to move out of the way one way or the other. The problem with dodging is that dodging uses up your next melee attack.
Right.
So if you keep dodging all the time, you will get screwed because sooner or later you won't have any attacks left to either attack with or defend yourself.
Right.
So it's better to use the parry. Now, some characters have an automatic dodge. In Rifts, there's the Juicer is the most famous example. He's got an automatic dodge, so he can dodge all day, and it doesn't matter because just like the parry, it doesn't use up one of his attacks. So anyway, he would roll that, and he would add his bonus. We'll say he's got a 5 as well. So he's got 16 total. I got 15 total. That means that he dodges out, or parries, whichever he decided, the blow, and I didn't do anything to him. Okay? If I did hit, then it simply uses a number of dice. A lot of damage is based either on D6s or it's based on D4s. Those are the primary ones, and the D4 will usually be a multiple of something like D4 times 10 or whatever.
Right.
Those are the primary things used for damage of the various weapons. In fantasy and stuff, you might use D8s or whatever. But those are the primary things used for damage. So I'll roll my damage, and then he'll take that off of his points. Now, if he's an SDC or like a regular person, he'll have hit points and SDC. He'll take it off the SDC first, then off his hit points.
Right.
If you're playing Rifts and he's an MDC character, and you're doing an MDC attack, then it'll come off his MDC. Now that doesn't deal with armor. We still have armor in there, and armor works like this. If you're MDC armor in Rifts, then it comes straight off the armor first before it affects your hit points or your MDC. So you have to basically destroy his entire armor before you get to touch him. If it's an SDC attack against SDC armor, there'll be something called an AR. Okay, the AR is the armor rating. Now the way AR is supposed to work is that if the roll is equal to or under that amount, so if it's like AR 15, if the roll was equal to with bonuses or under that amount, then it just bounces off. Okay, or excuse me, it takes points off the armor. If it's above that amount, then it goes through and hits him. If it's a natural armor rating, there won't be any SDC for the armor. Instead, it just bounces off. But those are that's basically the types of armor you could have. So you could have MDC, you could have SDC armor, or you could have natural AR rating, which is like that'd be in Palladium Fantasy if you had a dragon or something.
Right.
He would be able to bounce shots off him. It happens a lot in superheroes. But that's basically how you do a single melee combat. Now ranged combat, kind of the same thing. So I would roll my die, and I would roll again, and this time I got a 17. I'd add my bonuses with the weapon. Now, with ranged combat, you don't get that strike, parry, and dodge anymore.
Right.
You only get the skill in that weapon. Okay, so that means you don't get a bonus for a high prowess, high physical prowess. You don't get a bonus for your hand-to-hand. Nothing like that is added to it. Just the bonus for the weapon proficiency. Okay, you might have some special bonuses for your OCC or for some special skill you have like sharpshooting, but you won't get any of your normal bonuses you get in melee combat. But assuming I hit, now for this roll, if I add 5 to it, it totals out at 22. So he would have to figure out what he's going to do to defend himself. The big problem with ranged attacks is you can't exactly parry it.
Yeah, you can't parry
So,
bullets.
unless he wants to use an attack and dodge, he's going to have to take it. So, what would you do? Would you want to take it? Again, this comes down to your armor a lot, especially in Rifts. If you have a lot of MDC armor, you're probably willing to take the shot so that you could go ahead and attack back. That's up to you. But assuming, go ahead and say your dodge.
Okay.
So he's going to try to dodge. He doesn't get anywhere close. So I hit him. He lost an attack for dodging, plus I hit him. Now I'll roll my damage, and the damage will come off his MDC armor first, and then if any gets through, it'll hit him. When you're doing ranged attacks, here's where there's some of the things come in. First, you need, according to the rules, you need an 8 or higher to hit, period. So, if I only roll, say, a 6 on the die, and I don't have a bonus enough to push it up beyond 8, then I don't get them. I just missed, shot up in the trees or something. But if I do hit them, ranged combat, especially in Rifts, there's a -10 depending on how close you are, or if you're a little farther out, it's a -5. So on his chance to dodge out of the way. So it makes it very, very hard, and that's why Rifts is such a gun bunny game. Now we enjoy that part of it, but it really does. So if you're shooting, that's where all the big stuff comes in. That's why characters like juicers and stuff who can do dodges, flips, and stuff to get out of the way are so good. In addition to that, other stuff you have to think of, there's, for instance, in Rifts, it'll be on page 361. There's a bunch of modifiers that will add, bonuses or penalties depending on what you're doing. So, like, if you're doing a called shot, you can get use up 2 of your attacks, but it adds +2 to your shot. If you're, say, what's a good example here for a penalty? Say you're shooting at a moving target, it's a -1 to strike somebody if they're moving under 20 miles per hour. But there's all those kind of penalties that are added, and when you make the roll, you simply add or subtract them from the die roll. It's pretty simple. It's just that face-to-face roll, and then when you're done your shot, you go on to the next person, and then you just go round robin and go through them. Now, there's some differences. Here's where we'll talk about our house differences, the stuff we play with that's different. When we play old school. In the old version of the rules, a miss was an automatic 1 to 4. The way it is now, a miss of a 1 always misses. So if you roll a 1, you always miss. But above that, that 1 to 4, you can push up with bonus stats. Like, so anything added to your die can push it up above that. In the old rules, it wasn't like that. But we play like that. A natural 20. If you roll a natural 20 on a d20, that means you got a critical success. Yay! And you'll do double damage. And if you were trying for like a death blow or a knockout punch or something, you'll do that special effect on top of it. Beyond that, that's pretty much covers how to do combat. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think it's mostly that people have a hard time with it because they're not used to playing I get to do something, you get to do something to defend against it.
Right.
They're used to playing other games like D20 or something where everything is determined by my roll and I either hit or miss. And then the target has nothing to say about it. The nice thing about Palladium is that he gets a chance to figure out what he wants to do to defend himself against that roll. He just doesn't automatically get hit.
That's right. Yeah. So.
But that's basically it.
That is combat.
Now, like I said, based on what game system you're playing, so Heroes Unlimited, Rifts, Palladium Fantasy, Nightbane, they'll all have little tweaks on it, some things here and there. And then, for some like Rifts, when you start getting into things like robot combat and that, those can be a little more confusing or a little more interesting depending on how you take it. Because you have things like you can shoot, like have incoming volleys of missiles and then shoot them all down and stuff like that. But again, they all run on that same system. So as long as you get the idea of I roll a d20, add and subtract any bonuses, he rolls a d20 for his defense, adds and subtracts any bonuses, highest wins. I mean, it's no big deal. By the way, defender always wins a tie.
Right.
We should say that. I forgot to mention that. But I mean, that's basically the core of the system. So it really makes Palladium, it's both a flexible system and it's fairly intuitive once you get used to it. You just have to get past the fact that you're both involved in the combat. It's not one of the game systems where the attacker figures out everything. That's basically it. It's more like a boxing match. It's like a dance between the two characters.
It's a reactive combat system.
Okay. But anyway, that's about it for combat. I mean, it's pretty simple.
All right. Well, from the Rifts.